Hello and welcome to my video. Microphone hat, not insanity, not yet anyway. It just makes it easier for me to record. Big canvas, this is a linen canvas. Not cheap, linen canvas tends to be a little bit expensive. This probably costs the same as a very good evening out in a fancy restaurant. Dinner for two, at least. So that's before you put any paint on it. Hopefully the value of the picture will go up when I put something on it. My last Zoom class I had to cancel because, as you may know, if you watch my stuff, I have a problem with my heart. And occasionally it reminds you. You can feel good 1 minute and then suddenly it reminds you that you're mortal. So I had to cancel the class, so everyone has been moved on to the next class, which is later this month, and I'm sure I'll be fine for that one. So what have we got here? Okay, yeah, linen canvas. Now linen is, as I said, more expensive. It's less absorbent. The paint tends to sit on the top. It's a very much tighter weave. And slightly more slippery, so I like it because I don't like cotton canvas too much. Paint just seems to disappear into it and get stuck, whereas with this you still have the ability to move the paint. And I'm not sure, in fact, not sure, it's an understatement, no idea what I'm going to paint, but I'm going to start off with the distance bit. You may see a drip or two of paint. That's accidental. I don't want it too drippy. So, but what I'm going to do is show you all the different things you can do on linen canvas that you might struggle with on cotton. So over there's quite a lot of oil there. I'm going to do my best to keep out of your way. It's not that easy when it's such a big painting. But as I said, I'll do my best. So this is royal blue. That will be about the limit of my horizon. Everything sort of from here down is going to be landscape, and that'll obviously be the other stuff up above it. You know, the bit that you get above landscape. So I've put down royal blue. What I'm going to do is just sort of scrub that around a bit. Let's just sort of... There we go. Get some of these hairs off. There will be hairs when you use cheap brushes, so just sort of get used to it. Yeah, before I get into the painting, if there's anyone else out there, I'd never really heard of heart failure until it decided that it would get me. And I must say, if you've got heart failure, and you're struggling, you have my complete sympathy. It's one of those things that you can get a good day and a bad day. You can get a good minute followed by a bad minute. It's very unpredictable. So if you're fighting it, don't give in. As they used to say in the old days, keep your spirits up. Sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes it's downright difficult. But what else can you do? Right, so that's a bit of blue. Now, just to give you an idea, this is the size of my hand next to that painting. So you get an idea of how big it is. It's actually quite enormous. I don't know whether it comes across on video. I guess it will when on the final thing. So what I want to do is I get the colour on, then minimise it, just by thinning it out, and that obviously will avoid getting bogged down in tons and tons of paint. So in fact there's a load of paint here, which I could just sort of use that. I don't have to throw that away quite yet. I could just sort of distribute it around the canvas in a few places. Could even pick up a little bit more, take away some from the bottom edge. and put that up here. No idea what sort of sky it'll be. Well, it'll be cloudy, but it's as far as I can tell you at the moment. Oh, and the brushes, in case you're interested, this is about 2 inches. It's 50 centimetres, I beg your pardon, 50 millimetres, 50 centimetres, that would be quite big. It's basically 2 inches. And where the land meets the sky, sometimes my favourite part of a painting. Let's get some light in there, a little bit of titanium white. There we go, nice and loose and floppy. Starts to sort of make it interesting already. I do like the sound. Actually, I'm a bit of a frustrated drummer, I think. I've always liked drums. The only problem I have with it is I have no sense of rhythm. So. But I like the idea. I mean, when I was a kid, I liked the idea of being an artist. I used to watch people on television drawing and painting stuff and think, ooh, I could do that. And I thought the same thing about drumming, but I was completely wrong about it. Anyway, so there we are. We've got some. When I'm coming over here, by the way, I'm looking in my camera. That's. I hope you don't find that too off-putting, but I like to see the image small in the viewfinder. So let's just get some variation in the blue. What I don't want is a hard blue line and a hard pale blue line. I want to sort of merge them a bit. Reasonably varied. There we go. Good. Right, now I'm going to keep this clean. Well, when I say clean, I'm going to keep this one for blue. And I'm going to use a new one when I find out where I put it. This is a slightly smaller brush. This one is 1.5 inches. And as you know, I use really unbelievably cheap brushes. Just check there's nothing coming out. I mean, you can check with this sort of brush, you can keep checking for loose bristles, but sometimes they won't actually pop up until you threaten them with a bit of paint. So the bottom edge of that, what I'm going to do now is, this is all experimental. You know, this is just, right, what I've got now is, it's just called light green. And it won't stay, you know, these colours will change. I'll be adding other colours to them in a minute. But I'm going to try and, instead of just a straight line across there, I might put a little bit of curvature. It's something I tend to avoid usually, but why not? So what I want to do is start pushing this green into the blue, into the pale blue, like so. So you can see the blend at the moment, extremely basic. And I'll be adding, as I said, I'll be adding other colours into that. But this is something for the other colours to sit on. And then I'm starting to look for interesting things happening in the transition. It's that word again, interesting. I keep trying to not say it, but there's something interesting about the word interesting. Right, okay, I've got a little bit of a sort of planetary curve. Okay, good. Now, what should we do next? I think perhaps a little bit of grey and a darker green. So I've got some Payne's grey here. Let's see what happens when we do that. Right, so this is light green and Payne's grey. Now, if you're going to invent a landscape, I guess you've got to see it. You've got to see it in your head. Try and imagine yourself standing there, and all the things in the landscape appear. And if they don't, keep waggling the brush until they do. Sorry, that's not helpful, is it? Just waiting for stuff to arrive. And usually it does. Same brush. All I'm doing though now is adding a bit of sap green, but I'm not adding red ochre. Normally I add red ochre to sap green. I will, but not yet. So let's just put a few little dark shapes. And after a great deal of thought, I'm going to add some red ochre because I've suddenly had a flash of inspiration. And of course, what the red ochre does with the green is it makes it more believable. See, when you go out and look at foliage, if you just make everything sort of like green, it doesn't look real. You've got to have a certain amount of red in your green. Gives you better darks too in your painting. So let's have I'm going to have a nice strong shape down there. I find that when I'm doing this sort of landscape, the faster I work on it, the better the effect, funnily enough. I don't know quite why, but it just seems to sort of pull it together better if I start to go faster. I'm going to also add some Indian yellow, which is quite a strange colour. It's a bit like yellow ochre. I think I mentioned it in my last video. It's a bit like yellow ochre, but slightly more yellow. Now let's see what we can do with that. Now you won't see much at the moment until I work on that, but that's actually got some Indian yellow in it. And what I want to do at this stage, I want to start to really make the foreground a lot more dynamic. I want to sort of, I don't know, how do I put it? I want to get a bit of emotion into it. I have noticed that I was slowing down a bit and getting into the fiddly phase. Okay, slightly more oil into it. And you'll see why when I start wiping the paint. But I want, that's what I want. I want texture, that's what I'm after. And I want to get a little bit of interest somewhere around here, just to keep people in the image. So I'm slightly going crazy with the light green mixed with everything else that I've got to get some other colours working, and they sometimes only show up when I start to work at them with the paper. It'll all become clear when I've made more of a mess. Bring that up from the bottom edge slightly. Fiddle with a bit of paper on it, which is a technical term. To fiddle with a piece of paper basically means to wipe away part of the image, like so. That's looking nice against that. And this, you see, little white spots. There may be something I can do with them a bit later on. So we got these trees. We got a little, I think, a blaze of light here. That's good. That keeps the eye. Excuse me, up against this and up against that, which is where I want you to go. That's the plan. What should we do down here? Let's get some of this green in. Okay, let's have... There we go, that's what I want. Okay, so there's some interesting accidents happening. Accidents. Now there's a new way of saying a word. There's some nice accidents happening in this, which I'm starting to see. They're not really accidents. I mean, I suppose it's seeing the painting in the mess. And of course, landscape is made up of a series of angles and changes and, you know, colours and different planes. And if you push paint enough, you'll get a picture. You might have heard of this idea that someone said, if you give, I don't know what it was, 20,000 chimpanzees typewriters and paper, eventually they'll come up with the works of Shakespeare or something similar. I actually can't imagine that ever happening, but you know, someone said, "Oh, that's a possibility." I doubt it personally, but who am I? Yeah, this is going nicely actually. I quite like this effect. See, texture makes pictures. Let's have a little bit of something there too, why not? Okay, now, there's something I'm not liking, and what it is, and this may be useful for you to know, it's the extreme beginning part, where I was just feeling a bit off and not quite relaxed enough. And it was just looking too prissy. It's a lovely word, that, isn't it? Prissy. I don't want to make prissy paintings. I'd actually quite like them to be reasonably powerful, if I can get away with it. Right, I will get in the way of this, but I'll try not to. But I want to go over here. Quick look over my shoulder. What can I see? Yeah, that's all right. You will see something. Okay, so I just want to pull these colours together here, just a touch like that. And then I want to make that line have a bit of allure. So in other words, got to say it again, haven't I? It's going to be something slightly interesting. So let's Am I ready to put something that... No, I'm not. I'm not ready to do that yet. What I'm going to do is a little bit of work on this. That's not right. That's not happy. Okay. How's that looking? Is that any happier? Don't want to produce a miserable painting, do we? Although somebody did tell me that that's what I do. Dark and miserable. Oh, well, there you go. Can't please everyone, can you? Right, I think while I've got this bit of paper going, I'm going to just sort of do a little bit of horizon blending. Yeah, I suppose some people might see this sort of thing as slightly miserable, but, you know, I don't. I just like the, I don't know, something about the subdued tones and the textures just tickles my fancy. You see, every time I do that, I'm sending the horizon further away. That's the plan, anyway. And it's a question of be as brave as you can. Good. Am I still bugged by this change of green behind there? Does it bug me? A little bit. So what should we do with it? I think I'll knock it back just a little bit more. I don't often do this, but I'm going to time stamp something in this video. So you'll see a comment. No, I beg your pardon, let's rephrase that. If someone asks me about whether they can do this with acrylics, rather than me type a great long explanation about no, you can't, I'll just say it here. You can paint a picture like this with acrylics, but you cannot do it using the technique that I'm using, because this technique is specifically for oil paint. Acrylics don't behave in the same way. I'm going to reform the top of that tree in a minute. It's a totally different technique. Acrylic has to be kept moist. You can use retardants, you can use all kinds of stuff. You can spray water on it, you can do, you know, whatever. But it's a different technique. You'll struggle, trust me. So anyway, so if anyone asks me that question, I will just put a little time code in the comment that I reply, and all you've got to do is click on it, and it will take you to this point where I just explained it. Okay, so there's a sort of, this is what I'm after here, you see, is this a copse. I love something about copses, or is it copsi? I find them slightly mysterious and fascinating. So I don't know. Anyway, so I'm making the copse. I don't want it too big. I want it to be, you know, in the distance. And I'm going to add texture to it and a sort of pretense of detail. What are we going to do down there? Got to think of the down there parts, you know, they're always interesting and always need a little bit of attention. I'm gonna bring some trees along this ridge here. Now, when I say trees, what I mean by that is shapes that could be mistaken for trees. Because if you think you can't paint trees, I've got news for you. All you've got to do is put a shape. It's just, as I always say, essence of tree. There is no particular species. This is a Stuart Davies special. So all it needs to do in the painting is to give the feeling of treeness. And there's a little bit of treeness in the distance. So that's looking, well, sort of slightly intriguing. And I want a little bit more intriguingness over there. And it's all done with lights and darks. Lights and darks and views of all the cat hair that's stuck to my shirt. Okay, that's coming along quite nicely. And I think I've got that one there. Do I need another one over there? There is a lot of nothing going on at the moment. And I think I'm just going to put something there. Little hint of something in the distant mist. Not quite sure what I'll do with that yet. I might just leave it sort of, you know, mushy. Great word that, isn't it? Mushy. That's the mushy part of the picture. Let's increase it because I don't want a little small mushy island. In fact, I'm going to put a little bit something just there too. Somebody asked me a while back, why don't I paint palm trees? Well, I tend to paint what I'm surrounded by. This is very much like the area where I live. And I, as much as palm trees are quite interesting, it's just not my subject. They just, and it's nothing personal. I'm sure there's some very nice palm trees out there, but it just is not my thing. It's the same thing. Someone said, why don't I paint deserts? Well, I mean, there's deserts and there's deserts. Now, I quite like the American type, like the, is it Monument National Park or Monument Valley? I can't remember now. I might have to look that up. But just a Sahara desert type thing, I have zero interest. So that's not going to happen. And people are always asking me about seascapes. I'm sort of painting more seascapes now. And I quite like them. I'll do more in the future. Right, so let's see what we can do with this. You see, now that little bit of light there, that light blaze on the landscape, I think it really does have to have something that breaks it every now and then. Just a couple of little thingamybobs. Okay, right, so do I need a bigger wood over there? I think I probably do. It won't be massive, it won't be as big as the one on the left. And it's just going to be a sort of hint. How much in the way am I? course, yeah, okay. Let's have a wood just there, and maybe I'll put some interesting tree trunks. That's the word I'm looking for. You see, it's perfectly acceptable to paint floating trees and then put the trunks in later. Okay, will that work? Not sure yet. I think it will. In fact, I know it will. What do we do there? Let's think about what we can do. Okay, I think a line of trees. And some kind of line. It's not quite what I want, so just push the paint a bit more until we get it. Is that what I want? It's sort of getting there. And I think it'll work better if I lighten what is behind it. Not with that though. Now I was thinking that maybe this painting could be done over several days. I think it might be over 2 days. So I'll probably go as far as I can with the landscape in this sitting. Just a quick look at the okay, and then I'll do the sky in one lump, probably tomorrow. So I want some light behind these trees. Now I've put the hint of trees, so it doesn't matter what I do to them. So I'm just going to pull a little bit of light across there and try not to hit the cabinet that holds all my oil paint again. That's quite a nice colour. You see, that's the Indian yellow. When you wipe it, it's this colour when you don't wipe it, and that colour when you let some light into it. And I think the ground, right, let's put a little touch more just there. And then I think down here, just a few scrape marks, just to give the ground a little bit of texture. In fact, you could probably have a little one of those. Why not? And then a little bit of light there. Okay, now, so what I've done is created some lights and darks so that I can now get a dark greens, basically sap green, red ochre, a little bit of Payne's grey in it, not too much because I don't want it going into black. Okay, and then just basically sculpting something in there. Let's have a tree there, and then a tree here, and it comes around here, and then pull the eye. I want to pull the eye around. Okay. So I think you get the idea how it works. You make texture, texture makes landscapes, because landscapes are made up of texture. It's just finding where to put them. Okay, there's a hint of a path going off that way, so I think that should have maybe a tree or two along it. Keep them dead simple, just blobs. Good. Am I happy with this? This is a question I ask myself often. Not totally. So I'm going to try something else there. Right, I definitely prefer that. So let's just have a quick look at the other side of the painting. And what is it I want to do there? I think I want to get some, I want some texture lines, as usual. You know, it's all about texture. I can't go on about that enough, really. Can't emphasize it enough. Texture. Texture is key. Let's have, just for the heck of it, let's just have a line. Did you even see that? I don't know. Hang on. You can see some of it. Right, I just added this here. It may seem very insignificant, and in fact it is when you take the problems of the planet into consideration. It's just a little line, but you've got to draw the line somewhere. And I think maybe we should have, what should we have? Let's say, what's that? I've got to figure out what that dark bit represents. Okay, it's a field with trees above it. So these are basically trees or dark shrubs. Let's have another line then that goes across that way. Why not? It may give the hint of a path. That's what I'm sort of, you know, I'm basically trying to hint at lots of things. Let's go over there a little bit more. Right, so that bottom corner there, that needs something doing to it. And what shall it be? Okay, so at the moment it's a bit empty, it's a little bit limp. So I think I've got these solids here. I think we should probably have a solid there. I'm doing my best to keep out your way here. But step back, always step back. See how it progresses. Something quite weird happening there. It sort of has a sort of building-y feel to it. And do I keep it? Do I work on that and try and make it stronger? Or do I keep it as so that it doesn't look like a building, so it looks more like a tree? I don't know. Let me just sort of push it around a bit. I think the only thing that made it look building-y was that light patch on it. So it's a new word for you, building-y. Okay, how does that look? It's okay. That dark line there, don't think I like that. So I'm going to take it away. So as I take it away, move slowly and carefully so that you know exactly when to stop, so that you don't ruin your hours of work. Okay, quite like that effect. Right, so what else am I liking and what am I not liking? And should I stop now and continue tomorrow before I fall over? There are a couple of things I want to do actually before I do stop. And it's just so that the strange thing is this will probably all be quite wet tomorrow. The paint on my glass palette though will be crisp. Always does that, particularly the earth colours. I just want to put in a few little hints in there. Of you know what's. And I'm sure you know what they are. They're just a hint. You see, I don't do detail, I do a hint of detail. Now I can use this, actually, it's got dark paint on it, but I can use that to bring a little tree trunk down, or maybe not. Sometimes it works. Okay, maybe here. Will you even see it? Sort of. The thing is not to go too over the top. As I often say to people, sometimes you need to whisper to get people to pay attention, rather than shouting all the time. Just to give them a hint of what's going on. And I think the only thing I'm going to do next, before I stop for the day, is to just go along the horizon. So there you can see everything, almost. I think, yes. Okay, should be all right. Yeah, I want the transition between the sky and the land to be even more vague. So let's just sort of just back and forth it a bit, like so. Okay. I think we'll have a little path. So this path here, a hint of a path, that goes behind the tree, and then it appears, and it goes off up to the wood, like so. Okay, so that's it for today. So when I start again in a minute, it will actually be tomorrow. Okay, it's the next day, and obviously I couldn't help it. I had to review the video up to now, and I've learned a few things. One is that I've got to really keep out of the way, so I'm going to be sitting. The problem is, you see, it's such a big picture in my quite small room that I've got. I can only go so high in any or sideways in any direction. It's quite limited. So I've got a chair, so I'll be sitting down to do the detailed stuff, so that hopefully I can keep my self out of the way. The other thing I've learned, excuse me, is I need to lose weight, but I'll work on that. And when I'm working on the clouds, I will be out of the way because it's a lot easier with clouds. And the other thing I just want to mention is that today some lighting got delivered, some decent lighting at last. So hopefully there won't be any sort of reflections in the sky when I get to it. They're what's called soft boxes. I'll show you them in a minute. In fact, I'll stick a little thingy up on the screen up here, so you can see what they look like in case you're into making your own videos. This is the sort of lighting I can recommend. And take notice of the thing that pops up here. That's quite important for YouTubers. If you want to subscribe, that would be very nice. Okay, so let's get to it. Now, I'm going to be working with paper to start with, so I've got a whole load of paper. Taking stuff off and also a little bit of brushwork, but smudging. I'm going to do a little bit of smudging because there's a few things I've spotted that I don't like. So let me get myself parked down here. This is going to be interesting. I don't normally paint sitting down, but hopefully you won't. I won't get in the way too much. And let's see, where should we begin? Let's first of all, this wood here. It's okay. I'm not too disappointed with it. I don't like the little spiky bits I've got sticking up, so I'm going to just sort of change the shape of the wood slightly. And in fact, I'll probably work on softening the edges of the trees just a bit. So let's just do that. And also it gives me a chance to randomize the tree a little bit, because you don't want a predictable tree. In fact, nothing in your painting must be predictable. And in fact, I don't know whether I've mentioned this before, but if you look at classical, a lot of classical, not all, landscape paintings, the artists seem to paint the clouds in groups of 3 bobbles, you know, sort of bobbly clouds. And I think I figured out the reason why they did that. And it's something I always tell my students, is don't do it. It's like they painted a bobble in the cloud, and they thought, well, that's nice, I'll do another one of those. And they do 2, and they think, well, 2's good, let's have a 3rd one. And you'll see them dotted around in paintings. Now, if I remember at the end, I'll try and put in a detail from a classical painting to show you what I mean. And Constable did it, Turner did it, and a lot of Dutch artists did it. So, but if you can avoid it, it's always better. Now, the paint is starting to solidify. This is just overnight, and it always tends to be the, let's get that out of the way, it always tends to be the earth colours and the greens, but I should be able to sort of cut through the paint in a few places. I'm sure I can over there. It's getting difficult, I have to say. But I just want to put in a few scratch marks into the dividing line between the land and the sky. I can always go over them if it's a little bit too sticky. In fact, it is very sticky already. Let's just take a bit of paint off there, get a feel for it. Yeah, that's actually, do you know, when I woke up this morning, it's, what time is it now? It's 5:15 in the afternoon, and I've actually been waiting for the new lighting to turn up. And when I checked this morning, it was highly mobile paint. It doesn't matter, because I can use a lot of the textures that I've got in here and just put new paint over the top if I want to change much. So I think maybe I'll come back to the landscape in a moment. I mean, I can add colour to it. I can solidify a few things like this, and, you know, as I said, randomise some shapes a little bit more. little bit of a hill with a dark top. Always looks quite alluring, to me anyway. Not everyone gets as allured. Okay, so there we are. Let's just take that over there a little bit to the right. Just to sort of, as I, it's one of these important things, making shapes random, because nature is, a complete rebel. Nature is a free spirit. Doesn't matter what you want it to do, it'll usually do what it wants to do. Okay. Now, because this is drying off quite aggressively, I'm going to start to put some light paint on top of the dark. Now, when I mentioned my room being small, I wasn't kidding. It's time I had a good clear out. I keep saying this, but I procrastinate. But more on that later. So let's just see now, because it's gone slightly sticky, as I said, I can put lighter colours onto the darks and take sculpting to a new level. Now, some of it is actually still quite wet there. That's very fluid there, which is nice. I can use that. And then down here, let's do a little bit more. A little bit of moulding just there. The thing is, when you paint, don't be afraid of the paint. I think in my lifetime I've come across, I've lost count actually of how many people who have said to me that, oh, I tried painting once, but I couldn't do it. Once actually isn't quite a lot, is it? It's like you bumped into painting, looked at it for a second and thought, nah. It's one of these things, that obviously takes quite a lot of practice. Okay, so this is funnily enough, there's 2 stages with a painting, no, 3. There's when textures start to work, that's one. The second part is when you finish the clouds and they look like clouds, and the third part is when you finish the painting and it actually looks like something. I'm sure that's a very simple way of looking at it, but once you've painted some pictures that really work, you'll understand what I'm talking about. So, tonalism, abstract landscape. It's one of those things that you can do. We can actually all do it. Depends on the desire to do it. That's also important. So here I'm sort of putting in a few little catch lights just to make it look a little bit intricate without any kind of intricacy. It's basically the illusion of detail. And if you haven't seen that video yet, that's one of my first, it's not my actual first, but it's one of my first videos, it's well over 3,100,000 something views. So it's clearly popular. That's some little dark bits just there. See, distance. I can keep the distance going right up into the sky. I could go further. I could go up to there, actually. I'm not going to, but if I wanted to, there's no reason why not. It just means that we would be looking down more. So we have to look up to see the horizon. If you have a low horizon, it's like down where we, in other words, we're looking across a much flatter landscape. As soon as you take the horizon up, it gives the appearance that we are here looking down that way. There's a little bit over there in the sky. So what is it over there in the mist? Obviously it's a hill. Right, I think it may be sky time. Sky time and then back to landscape time. Because I can tell now that obviously this is drying off. These lights, by the way, are going to completely. It's such a nice. I had these LED. It's like a plaque this size. Lots of little LED lights, and they're okay. They're not bad, but it didn't seem to matter where I put the thing in the room. I got a reflection off the painting, which you don't want really, and so I don't have those now. Well, in fact, my wife had one each. If she wasn't using hers, I would use two, and vice versa. But now she's got both of them. She doesn't paint, by the way, she teaches yoga. Okay, let's just have a little bit of something on that tree there. I'm not sure if I'll keep it yet, but it can go there for now. So I've got work to do down over there in that corner, and as I said, I'll come back to that. Here, what do I want to do? Do I want another one of those? Why not? There's something about putting a line across a field. So it gives you somewhere to go in the painting. A few light bits in there. Nothing is finished yet. It's going to be a long video, this too, by the way. I think at the moment it's just over 40 minutes. And it's obviously going to be longer because that's a lot of sky to paint. So let's get on with it. Okay, big sky. I will do as much as I can to keep out of the way. Let's get a chair shifted over there. So what sort of sky are we going to do? Well, as usual, you know as much as I do, because I'll just make some space on my palette. I'm not going to bother using the small paper palette for this because, well, frankly, it's too small. So I'm going to use my glass plate. I don't mean, no, sorry, plate glass. Some tons of space on here. And right now, I want a dramatic sky, obviously. Even though the landscape has got a bit of light on it, it doesn't mean to say, oh yes, that reminds me. Right, somebody said, they were looking at one of my pictures and they said they were perplexed because they couldn't see where the sun was. They couldn't see where the light was coming from. The only thing I could say to that is if you go out and actually look at a landscape with clouds. See if you can, if the sun isn't actually in the picture. Sometimes it's quite difficult to figure out exactly where it is. Could be behind a cloud, could be up there, behind a cloud that's above you and behind you. But the light will bounce from cloud to cloud. It'll be slightly more intense where, if it was sort of, say it was here behind a cloud, it'd be quite intense there, obviously. We all know that. But don't worry about it too much, because it's one of those things that it just, it bounces. Right, so I'm going to use royal blue. Nice big lump of that. I'm going to use Payne's grey. Can't make a sky without Payne's grey. What else have I got? I got my paper palette down here. I'm probably going to put some brown in the sky, a little bit of red ochre, and definitely white, obviously. And because it's so big, I think I have to start with a big brush. And I've got one that's been lurking. Although, wait a minute, what have I got here? That's still floppy. I'll use that one first. I was going to use a great big brush, but I won't yet. Just hang on to that. In fact, it was a big brush that's already been used, and it's got some dry paint on it, and I don't mind that up to a point, because texture in sky works the same as texture on the land. And let's see what we get. So we got red ochre, Payne's grey, royal blue. What else can I chuck in it? I think I might chuck in a little bit of ultramarine blue. Now, ultramarine blue, one of the most powerful blues you'll come across. And I've actually got, thanks to one of my students, I've had this for a few years now. So thank you, Ginger. Ginger came here with a friend of hers, Lindsay, and in the post I got a container a few days later of lapis lazuli blue. Still got some left, and I've sort of grown attached to it. If I put oil in that and mix it and put it on a brush, it'll be gone in an area about that size. So I'm going to sort of keep that. That's a memento. But what I will do, I'm going to show you how to make a storm. I feel stormy. Right, so Payne's grey, ultramarine blue. Let's just get a mess on there and see what happens. I really will, I promise, really will keep out of the way. Let's just get the colour on. Now this, funny enough, this blue is actually drying off quite a lot. So this is going to be interesting. So let's get on there fast. Thin paint, not thick paint. If I put a load of thick paint on that, I will just have a load of thick paint to push around. I don't want to do that. I have to say, as I go through this is one of the best canvases I've ever painted on. It's got a cross member, and it's so taut, and there's such a nice gap between the canvas and the wood. When I go over the middle, you can't see. Some canvases you actually see an impression of the bar that's behind the canvas. This one is really excellent. It's sort of slightly infuriating when it happens, because it's I don't want to go out and do brass rubbings, you know what I mean? I'm sure a lot of you won't know what brass rubbings are, what I'm referring to actually, but it's when you go around churches and you take a big piece of paper and a wax crayon and you put it on the floor and take an impression of carved stones on the floor, or not necessarily just the floor either. Anyway, so you know what I mean. If I do that, I don't want to see the bar behind. That's what I'm getting at. in my very long convoluted way. So to paint a nice stormy sky, start with the darks, which is what I'm doing here. Get the paint on reasonably quickly. And I'm not talking about covering it all completely in one go. Okay, can you see both edges? You can, yeah. Don't forget, there are blue skies and white clouds, but in a painting doesn't have to have blue sky with white clouds. It can have whatever you want. A little bit of a statement there. Okay, now I've got to go in front of you. Now, if you think you heard your phone go off just then, you didn't, it was mine. Okay. Ever painted a cloud like that? Right, now that I've actually got some paint on there, I've got to start doing some magic tricks with my lighting. I think that's better. In fact, I'm sure it is. Okay, so what have we got here? We've got Ultramarine Payne's grey. We've got red ochre through here. More pure red ochre at the top. Royal blue along the bottom. Royal blue coming up through there. Okay. And a little bit of oil chucked in. Sometimes I don't use much oil on the sky, but today I am. So we'll just fill up. So I do really worry about me getting in the way, and I know some people say, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's like being in the room with you," but imagine your horror when you've been painting for over 40 minutes, videoing it, you know, committing the paint to the canvas, which means, as we found out, sometimes, depending on the oil you use, atmospheric conditions, all kinds of stuff, the paint can actually dry quite quickly, almost overnight. And there's no undoing it, really. I mean, you could, yeah, you could. You could put paint stripper on it. I'm getting paranoid now. I'm looking over my shoulder all the time just to make sure that you can see what I'm doing. Lots of people have told me, they say, why don't you set the camera off over on the right-hand side so it looks across the painting? Well, I can do that, but it distorts the painting so much and I cannot get the focus where I want it. So I don't bother with that. I've done it on a few pictures, but it just gives a completely wrong image of what's going on. Okay, so I'm going to throw a little bit of royal blue in there, I think. So clouds, the ultimate abstract part of the landscape. I'm going to make life even better for you here. I'm going to move that way and zoom in on that bit. And hopefully I can then stand over here and I won't be in the way too much. There we go. Sorry to go on about this, but I find it probably as frustrating as you do. The only other thing I can think that might work would be to sit completely for the whole painting. and have the camera looking over my shoulder. Not sure that that would work. It's always tricky when you do that, especially with a very big painting, because I can't really move the camera back because you just get my head stuck in the middle. Okay, there we are, some interesting variations of blues and greys, warm ones, cool ones, and strange ones. Right, there we go. That's the entire canvas covered, except for a couple of spots on the ground, which I will be developing later into water, I expect. Now this has actually turned out as an interesting sky, without even doing much to it really. I mean, normally I paint skies in one go with everything wet, and I quite like the fact that the bottom part is quite dry, and I like the way the paints are interacting together. Just out of interest, I wonder if any of you noticed anything strange with the internet last night. I was doing a little bit of surfing, and because after I paint, I like to sort of decompress a bit, wind down and just watch something reasonably mindless. Anyway, I noticed that the sound on the internet was getting through, but an awful lot of the images were freezing, and I wonder if it's anything to do with the sunspot activity. Could be. As I'm painting more, I've decided to increase the size of my tubes. My normal tube size is this size, just out of interest, that size, which is, what is that? 150 millilitres. So I've gone up to this size. As you can see, it's definitely bigger, and it's 6.75. Oh, that's fluid out. It's 200 millilitres. Or if you're in America, it's 6.75 US fluid ounces. Good heavens. You've even got your own ounces over there. Right, so I'm going to put in a bit of Japanese red. Now, I won't be using a lot of this because it's a big painting, but it goes a long way. And I'm going to use exactly the same brush, not putting a lot of this paint on, just a little bit on the tip. And I think I will probably do some lines there. There we are. Starts to sing, doesn't it? Let's have a bit more of that. Let's have a bit there. Okay, now, am I being careful? Am I being precise? Am I heck? No, I'm not. I'm basically being as loose as I can be. And what are we going to do? We're going to put a little bit there. I'm tempted to bring the sky right down. Okay, I'm going to pull that over there. I don't want it to look too apocalyptic, you know. but I want it eye-catching. So now, if I bring it down to the landscape, what will that do? Let's do it anyway. Supposing this dark cloud came right down here. Oh yeah. I mean, if you're going to have a storm, you know. Okie dokie. Okay, now that bit of red up there, I quite like that. I think I want to take the darkness of the sky across a little bit further. I put a little bit of oil in that, just on the tip. And then start to work on this landscape sky transition just a bit more. Right down to that tree. See what would help me in my research, because I'm always researching, can't help it. I play around with my thumbnail things for YouTube, you know, to see what attracts viewers, because unless you can attract the viewers, you know, you're going to be invisible. Got to get people, you know, you've got to pull people to your channel. Some people think it's, well, no, let's rephrase that. Some people find it incredibly difficult to get started on YouTube. And it really is, you know, it's not easy. I think a lot of it is luck. The right video at the right time. Some people are just so talented and come up with such clever ideas. They can't go wrong. And some people have good ideas but no luck. They just don't get the views. And it's, you know, until you get started, it's incredibly frustrating. I guess I was lucky, but let's have a nice, let's have something strange going on in the sky just there. I found a channel which I found, I'm just prattling on, you can see what I'm doing here. All I'm doing is putting paint on, wiping it off until I get something interesting happening. Yeah, I found a channel. It's an American guy. And what he does, he reviews fast food. And who would have believed it? And he's doing very well. He's got, well, is it 1 million? Well over 1 million, maybe even 2 million. 2 million subscribers. So it's his career now. And but you know, what on earth do you think to say about fast food? Yum yum, that was nice. Or I don't know. I mean, you know, he goes into it in more depth than that. Just thin the paint just there. And I thought, well done to you, mate. And he gets like quite a lot of nice comments, but he does get some abusive comments, which is a shame, really, because what's the point, you know? As if your opinion on someone reviewing fast food is of any interest. But yeah, he puts up with a lot. But I'd just like to say, you know, it's sort of entertaining. And I find it interesting because I can't eat fast food because of my condition. I've got to stay away from all that stuff. because it's stacked with salt and all kinds of things that won't actually do me a lot of good. So I can sort of relive my fast food fantasy just by watching that. So if you want to start a YouTube channel, you've got to find a niche. Now, I think my niche is slightly dangerous skies. It's the bit, I like the landscape, but the sky is the bit that really gets me. And I think it all started when a late uncle of mine, Uncle Norman, a great guy, good, brilliant raconteur, sense of humour, and he was a bit of a, well, he was a lot of a surrogate father, because my father died when I was quite young, and he was just there at the right time, you know. And he used to take me and my two brothers to the art galleries. This was back in the 60s, early 60s. And I used to really enjoy looking around art galleries and the museums in London. Science Museum, Natural History Museum, all that stuff. If you haven't been, I recommend you go. Nice, great big bristle there, but I'm not going to worry about it. Let's give you a close-up of what the sky looks like. It's quite rough. See, it's just scratches, lumps of paint, all kinds of stuff. Now, this is going to go through another process or two, and is the big soft brush attack. Where are we? Don't do with that. There we go. Right. So, as I always say, I'm not interested in moving paint. What I'm interested in at the moment is just softening it. Softening it and blurring it and trying to get that. It's gotcha. Right, get off. So I may get in the way, I'm sorry if I do. But this is just to sort of blur it a little bit. There will still be brush marks on it, hardly touching the paint. You can probably hear it, but that's because I've got the microphone cranked up, because I know that there are people who like to hear the sound of the brush on the canvas. I find it soothing. It's a sort of ASMR thing, you know, but whatever it stands for. Auditory sensory meridian response, something like that. There we go. So what you need to do now, okay, this is part of my teaching regimen. When people come here and I paint them a picture, usually what I do, I paint a picture which is a demo picture which the person who comes here can have. They can keep that painting. So they get a free bit of me. And whoops. I can't remember what I was going to say. Do you get that? I get that. Anyway, I think I know what it was. Yeah, some people like the sound of the brush. It's like, it makes the experience more immersive. You feel like you're actually in the room. Okay, barely touching this. So this is an enormous sky to paint. This is quite a big painting of a sky, and you may think that Wow, how do you get such a big sky so fast? And I'm going to repeat stuff because I'm a commercial. I'm not now. I'm an old has-been. I used to be a commercial artist, and everything back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, everything was wanted really quickly. This is before computers. Computers, I think the first computer arrived on my desk in London in about 1990, I guess. Looked at it, I thought, what a wonderful beast. Couldn't wait to learn how to use it. I absolutely loved the idea. And yeah, good fun. It's like going to work and playing with a nice big toy. Because, you know, I was designing pages. We didn't do a lot of retouching then. Photoshop was relatively new. But the actual designing of pages of magazines was turned on its head completely. Absolutely loved computers. Anyway, and the speed you could do stuff was just mind-blowing. Absolutely loved it. I have to say, didn't necessarily enjoy the places I worked. Some of them were mostly, actually quite a few, were out of necessity. Got to feed the family, pay the bills, you know, that sort of stuff. But, yeah, some were really boring. In fact, I usually didn't mind, funnily enough, even if a job was a bit boring, I didn't mind it that much. The thing I always really didn't like, it was the office politics. I mean, what is the point of all that? Now that's turning into a sky that I would want to keep. Office politics, my goodness, you know, it's bad enough. Let's get into some personal stuff here. It was bad enough having to get on the train in the morning and travel for an hour to London, about an hour, I suppose. I lived in the south of England and it was just tedious. And in those days, I don't know whether it's the same in England. I haven't been to England for a few years now, actually. But it used to be you get on a train in the morning, and particularly the winter, well, that summer and winter were bad in different ways. But in the winter, the heating on the train never worked, and in the summer, it was too hot. And you would roast. And quite often the train would be, as it approached London, it would have to slow down and stop sometimes for quite a while if there was a problem. And that always, funnily enough, that always seemed to happen on the days when I had to wear a suit, which is not one of my favourite pastimes. Suit wearing is not for art, not for artists. Or anyone else who doesn't like to get too hot. Anyway, so what I've done there, that was just scratching into the paint a little bit to get those lighter spots. And then again, I'll just sort of blur it. They'll be very subtle. There we go. Now, I want to start playing with a bit of white in there. So, several ways to do it. One is to use a palette knife to put the white on, and the other way is to use a brush. And I don't want, funnily enough, I don't want to go overboard with the white because I really quite like all that darkness. I think if I do any white, it's going to come up there. Okay, let's try it with paper. Paper white. Let me shine some white. Need a bigger palette already. Now I'm actually going to paint with paper. Could use a brush, but if I paint with paper, it's less brushes to clean. I've got some white over there. No, I haven't. What earth have I done with the white? I know that when I'm editing this, one day I'm going to miss something out that I should have edited out. You know, the odd expletive might get through. Don't think it has yet. Right, there's the white. Right, titanium white. And in case anyone else asks, the paint I use is Le Frankenbourgeois. French paint made in China. And nice paint. Does what it's supposed to do. Okay, so I've got a nice wodge of white. And I've got a nice piece of paper. And you can't see it because it's white paint on white paper. Or maybe you can see it. So let's see, what can we do? Let's just put it on then, see what we get. Don't forget, the wind catches clouds. Now, once the wind has caught a cloud, it's everywhere. So don't try and organise it. Put it everywhere. I don't mean the whole painting. Just sort of let it, let it do what vaporised water and wind will do, regardless of what you do. In other words, it's another one of those technical words. It means it'll go up in the air like that. A little bit more. Focal point. Do I want a focal point? Okay, so I've got some paint. Now, is it picking up all the way yet? Because it goes right up here. Let's have a bit of a focal. There we are, there's a bit of a focal. So when you paint clouds, do you sit there or stand in front of your painting with a little brush, tickling and moulding? You need to trust me on this. This will get it done quicker, it'll make you happier quicker, and if you're happier, you will paint better. There we go. Okay, so that's not finished. This is just the start. But I want something there that will help explain the extreme light hitting the ground below it. Let's, right, no, I was going to move my camera, but I've got so much paint on my hand, that probably wouldn't be a good idea. So bear with me a second. Mind you, it's inevitable, isn't it? Paint is going to get on my camera. Right, another fresh bit of white paint just there. Let's see, what should we do with that? I think we'll pull a little bit over there. Let's have a flurry or two up here. Again, let me reiterate, I'm not particularly being precise. And I've got to say it again and again. You can do this. If I can do it, you can do it. It doesn't take 50 years to get paint on a piece of paper and go. You know, it takes as long as you saw me do it. For this kind of painting, you know, I have to tell you, there are times when I think, college was a waste of time. It was like just somewhere to go. Whereas I think some days, not every day, some days I think I could have learnt this at home. I could have just experimented and it would have happened anyway, I don't know. Right, that's looking nice and, what's the word, cloudy. I've got so many brushes on the go, sometimes I forget where I put certain brushes. Okay, so how's that looking? Looks good, juicy. Nothing quite like a juicy one. All right. Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, I can do this, which means you can do it. And the best way for you to learn this, and this is not just me trying to get people to come here to give me money so that I can teach them. If you actually stand in the same room and see it done, it makes a big difference. It's different from video. Video's all very well, but if you actually stand next to me, and occasionally when in the demo painting that I do for every single person, everyone that comes here, you know, I always start out with a demo painting on the first day. It transmits the information to your brain better than video. And the other thing I do, I don't do it with everyone, but when I see people struggling a little bit, what I do is I say, right, here's the brush. Hold the brush, let me just hold the front of the brush, or even hold their hand and just do a bit of painting, and they feel the movements, because it's not just da, 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 da. There's lots of little micro movements that you learn to put into a painting, into the brush movements as you paint, and you transmit them to the other person. And it makes a heck of a difference. Okay, it's turning into a sky that I like. So I'm actually wondering whether this should even go to another day. It's going to be a very long video. I mean, it's going to be well over, I think, could be an hour and a half, might even hit 2 hours. I don't know whether that's too much for people. Maybe it is. But you can always come back to it. Right, so I think we've got a nice bit of weight here. But I think let's do another bit of madness just here. Okay. Oh yeah. See, it's getting, by the minute, it's getting cloudier and cloudier. And hopefully it's getting more interesting, more intriguing. I'm not cleaning the brush, by the way, I'm cleaning the hands. Every time I use white, I get it everywhere. Okay. Sometimes I use this edge. That's for levelling out the low clouds near the horizon, that's all. For most of the painting up here, I use the broad side of the brush. Now, hairs do come off. I sometimes take them off as I'm painting. Sometimes I don't, because they don't always show up on the video. So I tend not to worry, but for this one, I'm liking the way it's going, so I'm going to sort of keep it as bristle-free as I can. What am I going to do up there? Maybe I'll have a little flurry of cloud going over there. Okay. So when you paint, if you're a new painter, what is it you want to paint? Let me know in the comments. What is the thing that you really have a hankering for to paint? Is it clouds? Is it sea? Is it landscape? Is it portraiture? I can do portraits. Here's one. Long time ago. Well, actually, it's not that long time ago. It's about 2009, maybe 2010, somewhere around there. It's quite a nice story with that one. It's the guy. I won't give his full name, but his name was John, and he was a sheep farmer. He may still be a sheep farmer. Who knows? And he and his wife were at a place where I was teaching painting down in the south of France. And his wife sidled up to me one day and said, look, how much to paint John? I don't tell him though, but I want it to be a surprise. So she said, maybe you could take a photo of him and just say it's for your memory, you know. And then paint a picture of him and send it, and I'll pay you for it. And so I said, oh, okay. So I gave her the price, and that was fine. And then a little later, it might have been the same day, obviously, you know, they were in tune with each other, and he had the same sort of idea. And he said, how much to paint my wife? So I gave him a price. He said, don't tell her, but I'll send you the money, and maybe take a photograph of her. Anyway, exactly the same. I don't know, maybe they planned it. But so I did these two portraits, and I sent them off. And if it was as I suspected, that they just came up with the same idea, it must have been quite a nice surprise for both of them to have portraits painted. And yeah, it's quite a nice thing to do. I don't do portraits much now. I've done hundreds. I've drawn hundreds. I've painted a couple of hundred at least. I never kept photos. It was back in the day when, you know, no digital. Couldn't be bothered to keep a photo. I wish I'd realised then, but anyway, that's the way it is. Yes, but it's hard work, you know. It takes a long time. I don't think I could have got away with... I mean, you could start a portrait using this very loose style, I suppose. But I'm not good enough, really, to do it like that and get a good likeness. My portraits tended to be a little bit on the precise side. Whoops, that was a bit unfortunate. If you want to see a really good portrait painter, just look for Vladimir Volkov, Russian, obviously, with a name like that, and watch him, and then you'll understand why I don't do it. The guy's a total genius. There are a few around actually at the moment, but Volkov seems to be the not only the master draftsman, but he's a colourist as well. He just gets the colours right. Right, I think I'm almost there for the sky. I will consider something there maybe, don't know, have a little think on that. So for the moment now, I'm going to go back to the landscape. What should we do? Let's, in fact, let's sit down. I probably won't need any paper, so let's leave that for a minute. I might turn that into a little pond, so that'll be last, and that'll be, you know, with a palette knife. So, just see, I suppose I could move back just a bit more. Got a reasonably long arm, not too long, doesn't drag on the ground when I walk. Okay, let's see, we've got a little bit of Payne's grey, a little bit of sap green, a little bit of red ochre. And all I'm after is just a good solid dark green. And what am I going to do? Right, so we've got these trees here. Let's just put some paint on them, because some of them I do want a little bit more solidity. Not those, they're slightly further away, I might leave them. There's some textures here that are quite nice, so I'm going to just sort of just make that tree poke up a little bit. Okay, down here. I'll be putting on a few light bits too in a minute. Let's have a little bit of a hedge there, and a bit more of a hedge there. And if I lean forward any more, I'm going to have my face in my palette. So, yum yum. Right, dark line there. I think that's going to resolve it a little bit more than it was. Right, solidify that. And this, that, and that. Now the bottom edge of this, I'll be going over with a little bit of light green, just to sort of give you a bit of contrast there. So I've got a line here, and I think I want to just sort of level it just a bit. Okay, is that a wise move? Never know, you know, often I will do a video, you know, paint what I think is a reasonable picture, and then upload it, and then I look at it and I think, oh, why did I do that? What on earth possessed me? And by then it's too late. In fact, somebody, I'm just going to move back a bit. How much of this side can you see? Not much. Right, another camera adjustment. At the moment, it's all a little bit, I mean, it's okay, but it's a bit fragmented. So let's see what we can do. We've got some interesting textures through there, but some of them just don't want to be too textured. Sometimes I like simplicity, you know, in other words, just a silhouette. But now this is interesting, because this is still slightly wet paint, and I really want that. That's good. So let's have a little bit of light across there. And then I think whenever you do a band of light, try to have something that bisects it, like so and so, so that you have, I'll just get a piece of paper here, so that you can do this. And it always looks good. It's the same thing I've done over there. A bit of light either side of the wood. A little bit of light in there. A little bit there. And a little bit here. See, puts another dimension into the picture. So a little bit there too. I like little pools of light sometimes. And it is purely just to get the viewer's attention. And it works with darks too, obviously. You know, you can have a light patch, you can have a dark patch. So here, I think we'll have a bit more general texture. Paint all over the handle of that brush. And quite a lot on me. Do you know, the older I get, the more untidy I get. Okay, so this bottom left corner is starting to turn into something a little bit more, with a bit more oomph. So let's just see if we can get some texture on some of these bushes. Have a little bit there, a bit there. I think that one might be almost too wet. Yep, you can hear it sticking. That is all pretty solid. Do I want to do anything to it? Oh, no, I can. I mean, that's how sticky it is. Okay, so the paper will just hang there. So if I want to get some light into that foliage, I need to do it quite quickly. And let's take some of that down a bit. Good. Excellent. Nice big hair right there. Let's see if I can flick that off. Even if I flick it off, you see I'm making mark. Well, you can't see it maybe. My finger's making marks in the paint, but I'm not actually bothered because I can just smooth it over. And at the moment, all I've got is, there we go. Great big bristle. Let's have a few little nothings. Let's have one or two over there as well. Gives you an idea how sticky that's becoming. You see, this is green, that isn't. And I can paint on that pretty well without leaving any paint on there. There's a couple of marks, but do I even want them? They might look good. Let's take most of it off. This by the way is the playing stage. Okay, so I'm basically pushing paint for the heck of it. I've got some purple floating over that tree. Don't want that. Okay, so I'm going to go back over to the other side in a minute. I'm sort of happy with what's happening down there. It's okay. There we are, just texture. Okay, right. So over there. Okay, so what colour am I going to use? This stuff, all this pale stuff down here, that's from me wiping away paint. Now I can't wipe any more of that away because I think it's actually dried off too much. I'm going to just test that. Yep, dried too much. So what I'll do, I'm going to use light green and white. Because the thing about landscapes is that not all greens are the same. Some greens contain white, some greens contain blue, some contain red. This is going to be the slightly greeny white bit. And in fact, am I going to do it with a small brush for a change? I think I will. I've got a couple of really cheap brushes. They all come from the same shop. I use and I'm not paid to say this. I don't do any promotions, by the way. If ever you think I promote anything, I don't do it. And the reason being is it's a lot of trouble. And secondly, every single, and I'm not kidding you, every single person who have said they want to promote on my page have turned out to be a scammer, except for one. And that was the a notebook, sketchbook thing that I did mention once. All I got out of it was a free sketchbook. And they were honest, you know, that was what it was about. They were just trying to promote these sketchbooks. And the paper in the sketchbook is actually made from stone, which is pretty clever. A little bit of green on the palette and a bit of white also. So, yep, they've all turned out to be crooks. So I don't do that. Life's too short. Okay, so this is white and green, and all I'm going to do is sort of scumble in a bit in here, and maybe a touch just there. A little bit next to that little path. I haven't added any oil. This is dry paint on a dry brush. And all I want to do is just sort of see what we get. Now, when I've put this on, I'll go over it with a piece of paper. I get that every now and then. I've done it all my life. I think to say a word and then I come up with something completely different. It's a bit like saying turn left when you mean turn right. So let's see, what do we do? Let's have a few more bits there. Let's have something the other side of that edge that's just catching a bit of light there. Just a little touch. What are we going to do over there? Nothing. So down here, let's see what happens when we do this. Let's do that and just pull these across that way. Okay, it looks really awful at the moment. Okay. Right. And then a piece of paper with oil on it. Figure out what to do with that brush. I really, really have to do something about this room. So, yeah, we're not far from the end of this video. So if you'd like to come to classes, the best thing to do is look on my Facebook page for adverts for Zoom classes, because that's the only place I really advertise. Or you can join the group. There's a group somebody started for me. That was a nice surprise. It's called Fans of Stuart Davies. And I think we're, I don't know, 2,000 people, not sure yet. I'm not sure at the moment. And that's quite nice. People, I'm trying to teach people As I say, my technique, I'm not saying this is how you do it, I'm just saying this is the technique. And people upload their versions of paintings using my technique. So I advertise on that every now and then, at least a couple of times a month, just to let people know that there's a class coming up. And hopefully I'll continue to feel okay. Right, so what I wanted to do there, to sort of experiment with this light colour, because I don't know what it's going to do. A light field, see, you get a light field, you get a dark field. That's a light field. Is it too light? Don't know. Could be a tad light. We can always add a bit more green to it. Not that it'll show much, but I might have to consider that bit. Have I considered enough? I usually consider quite quickly because I just get a feeling if it, it's going to go, if it's going to go places or not. Something I've learnt over the years, to think quickly. There, that might work. So we've got this little thing here which could be water. I don't know whether you saw what I pointed at. Did you see what I pointed at? Yes, you can, that thing there. So I'm going to make that wetter. And in fact, while I'm there, I'll be doing some tree trunkery. Okay, now then, palette knife. Right, so it's already white. So what I want to do is turn that into a little bit of water. So I've got to think about the best way to make it feasible. Now, I can add water here coming down to it. Because I can. I can put a little touch just up there and then gradually hint at it coming down over there until it hits this little pool just there. And then a hint to suggest that it might trickle off down that way. I don't know. Does it trickle? Is that trickling enough? And as usual, got to say this, you have to watch water. Now, it's got to be horizontal. Like so. So that horizontal line has to coincide with the bottom edge of the painting. Basically the horizon. Unless you've got on the side of a hill with a little scooped in, bit of a pond there, then, you might see a difference, well, you would. But basically there has to be this horizontal aspect to it. Now I could put a few more. There's a little bit of white here. Is that actually in the picture? Got to look back behind me at the camera. There's a little bit down there. I might just sort of touch that a little bit. That could be water that's coming down here. Let's give it a little hint that it's going that way. There we go. Right, so where does it go after that? It goes where I point the camera. So it's coming around, it's coming down there. A little hill, little river behind this hill comes down here. Then it appears there, just there, and then just a few drops. Do I like that? Do I like anything? Some days I don't know. Today, today I'm feeling fussy. Let's blur that edge a bit. In fact, no, I won't. I'll tell you what I'll do. I think this, it's not like a torrential stream, but I think it could be a little, instead of a stream, it could be a theme. Let's take it down there. So it starts, excuse my jerky camera, so it starts over there, comes along, goes down, and then what does it do over here? I could turn that into a little bit of a theme park. There we go. Comes along here, round here, then it appears there. So again, that bit must be horizontal. That top edge, whoops, totally wobbleized that, didn't I? But actually it's not so bad. Problem I find as I get older is keeping the hand steady. This is where years of practice have actually helped. It's all in the breathing. Must remember to keep breathing. Right, so down here, let's have a little bit down there. And then a little hint over here. So it goes down behind that tree and then across there. And then I think it could sort of peter out there a bit. Anything else that river does is down to speculation, maybe. Although, what's going on here? I don't like doing things too hard. Oh yeah, I'll tell you what, it can come down and just sort of twinkle about on the grass a bit. That could be okay. Especially if I do this. Paper is so valuable in these things, and that would be to just blur the bottom edge a little bit and thin that right down like to that. And I missed. Right. This is feeling good. Well, there we are, almost. I hope you've enjoyed this. I mean, I do prattle on a bit, but I find it, funnily enough, I find it, there's two ways I paint. One is just talking like this, and the other way is with loud music and no talking, but I don't do that so much nowadays because pretty well all the videos that I make, oh, I've got to do those tree trunks. All the videos I make, all the paintings I make, I beg your pardon, are for YouTube. So I can't have music playing because they will jump on me for copyright infringement. Even a hint of a tune, and they'll take the music away. And in fact, some of the music I use, most of the music I use, is free from YouTube. They have a library. Right, what I'm going to do here, I'll keep that bit of light there. I just want to strengthen the tree trunk that's below that, like so. I always like doing this. I don't know what it is, but it's just fascinating. Yeah, I made a quick little video the other day, or the other week. Time passes so quickly. And I put the video on Facebook, and a message came up on it saying that this music won't be available in some countries because of copyright issues. I thought, well, if they're giving it away copyright free on YouTube, whoops, how do they do that? I don't understand. Okay, edge of tree, let's just do a little bit of... I don't usually like doing edges of trees with little brushes. It's in my hand and I might as well use it. I prefer to use the biggest brush that I can use. But there we are, just to sort of randomise that edge a little bit. So we got tree trunk, two tree trunks. Let's have, I'm not happy with that little bit to the right. You can't see it, I'll move the camera in a minute. But to the right of this lump of woods here, just over there, there's something I'm just not keen on, so I might change that. But while I'm in this part of the painting, I'm going to just sort of, for the heck of it, I'm going to have to move the camera yet again. Right, I think what I'm going to do, this is the tree colour brush here, completely grubbed up. It's got a great big lump of, when you can see it, great big lump of red ochre just there. Oh, you're looking at the wrong one. I'm looking way back across the other side of the room now, you see, where I'm pointing with the small brush. So I've got a great big lump of red ochre there, but most of the top stuff there's green. So I'll keep away from the red ochre-y bit. And then just over here, I'll just show you something. I just sort of like the effect. Okay, so we've got trees here. If I just put a spot, literally, floating in the landscape. Doesn't even have to be dark, it's just a spot. A little bit more. Okay, that's enough to suggest a tree. And then using a rigger, hold it on the end of the brush. Don't do it like this. Well, you can if you must, but you'll figure it out that you shouldn't. You could do that, but the best way, I find, is to hold the brush quite a long way away. Put it on where you start and figure out where you're going to finish. There we are. So there's a little tree on its own at the edge of the wood. Don't like one on its own. Can I have another one? Let's have, so they're not going to connect, but we can have another one that's just here, and I think this one might lean a bit. It's just sort of, you know, it's just a blob. And this one, they're both leaning away from the wood, slightly. So let's just have that one doing that. There we go. This little bush that's further along, it's beginning to sound like a nursery rhyme, isn't it? This little bush went to market. Right, so this little bush here, or these several bushes, you do get these, a lot of them here, like little domes. But, you know, even though you get them, I think I'm going to just sort of randomise them a bit. a little bit of that. And the one next to it, tiny little one, let's just sort of have a bit of a pimple on the top of that. Of course, it looks like a giant rabbit. No, let's get it debunnied. There we go, that's better. Let's have a little something poking off that way. And another one of these little special tree trunky things. Let's just have it into one there. Very subtle. In fact, so subtle you can't see it. Now, what don't I like? Right. There's got to be something. There's something about this field below which you can't see me pointing at. Don't you just love mysteries? Right, I'll go and sort that out for you. This is going to be a long video. And I do wonder sometimes, because the thing about long videos is in my statistics, I get the view times. And quite often, people abandon the video after 9 minutes. The last one I put up is doing better. Right, so what I'm after, what am I after? Okay, I'm after that field at the bottom there, that pale field. What can we do with that? Yes, so this is going to be an ultra long video. I think my longest is probably 2 hours. I don't know, I've sort of lost track of this one. So will anyone even be watching? I don't know. But it doesn't matter because I get enjoyment out of it. Ah, right, so I've seen something now. Okay, so before I get to that field, I want to do something with this little pond-like structure. Okay, so we've got water that's coming down across here, comes into this little pond thing, and then what does it do? It's got to cut into that field on the right. And then it's got to sort of disappear over there. I'm not quite sure what's going on, but it'll probably be okay. Will it? Let's make the edge a little bit more vague. Don't be afraid to lean into a picture like this and give it a bit of elbow. Because if you want an effect, go for it. And I think the water wants to come along here, and then I think it wants to widen out and come down there. So, as I said, get your elbow into it. That could work. I think the only thing that's going to make that look feasible is for that water to come through there. You see, what I do when the way my brain works, it's my bizarre eidetic memory. I've been here, you see, this picture. Now I start to recognise bits, and I know I've been there. All I've got to do is just recall it. And it comes back. Sometimes the images I paint are from somewhere I've been to, and some of them are like a mixture. The mixtures tend to be from something that is so long ago, it's starting to get mushed up in my head. But I think now, let me have a look at that in the viewfinder, see if it looks as though it's going to work. Right, the only way I think this is going to work is if I just have a hint of that bit of water and I have some bushes in front of it. Okay, so the way to do that. So I'll start winding up because it may be that I don't finish this completely today. I might have to come back another time, but if I do, it'll be when everything is totally dry rather than just a bit dry. So down here, we got our water coming across, but water has to have a boundary. There's a boundary there, that sharp edge. That tells you that, you know, that's the far side of the bit of water. We've got a tree thing here. Okay, but then along the bank, I think there should be other things like this to give it a bit of structure so that you don't feel... You can come in if you want.
I'm sorry. Just nice. Just to let you know that I'm done in Filmora.
Excuse me, everyone. Sorry, what?
I'm done in Filmora.
Oh, you're done in Filmora.
Yeah.
What time is it? Oh, it's just gone 7. Okay, I'm going to be fiddling for a bit more.
I like that.
It's like the sky.
I like it all.
It's coming along, isn't it? Like the little river coming through there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just sort of resolving the bottom edge. Got to do something there, and then I'm pretty done, I think.
Cool.
Do you like a quick question for you? Market research, everyone. My wife's just come in the room. Do you like that bit? Be honest. No expletives.
It's kind of indistinct. What? It's kind of beep.
It's slightly indistinct, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think it's too indistinct?
It's pretty indistinct.
Okay. All right. I might undistinct it. I might cut that out. I don't know yet. So, yeah, it's always good to get an opinion. So here, remember what I said? I never swear on videos. And if you've made a video, which some of you might have, you may know exactly how to put in a beep. It would take you'd have to be quite precise, wouldn't you? Could put in a duck quacking, maybe. It might be fun. Okay, so there we are. We got a little sort of line along there, but is that good enough? Is that explaining the river? I think it's getting there. So sap green, red ochre, Payne's grey, usual stuff. Just to sort of darken them up a bit. Let's just get some contrasts in there. So I put the marks on loosely and faintly. I usually start dark, but in this case I'm not. I'm just sort of winging it, as they say. Just see what happens. So this is the bank next to us, and then I think we could probably fill that up with something down here. I think I'm out of the way, and I hope you can see what I'm doing. Yes, so before I wind up, yeah, if you want to come to a class, check the links below. There'll be a link to my website, which will take you to the Painting in France bit, which is always a laugh. It's always fun. You know, of all the people that I've had here, it's always been fun. And that's a lot of people. Before that disease hit the planet, I had a year, let's have another bush there. I had a year where there was someone almost every week. That was a very busy year. And let's have another bush there too, why not? It's just impressions, you know. A little bit more dark on that. Okay, let's stop for a minute, step back and have a look. I can see a few things that I want to do, but I've got to think of the time aspect, and it may just mean that, you know, I've got to return to it. I think, I'm not sure, yeah, I think it needs more, a little bit more sparkle in the water. What can you pull out of your imagination when you're painting a picture? I'm not the only person with an eidetic memory, and a lot of people, I think, have it, but don't necessarily realise that they have it. I've always known that I had this since I was very young. I would just remember. I just knew that I remembered things. You know, I have a memory of a picnic when I was about 3 years old, I think, maybe even younger. And it was a hot summer's day, and lots of relatives, cousins, and we went on this picnic, and we went we went picking mushrooms, and I was instructed on which ones to pick, which ones not to pick. Things were different then. Health and safety, didn't need it. Yeah, I can remember the weather. I can remember what I was wearing. I can remember what my cousin Morris was wearing. My mother, my father. Can't remember much of the conversations, apart from the warning about certain mushrooms. Don't touch this one, don't touch that. And if you do touch that one, tell me, you know, that sort of stuff. And then I found that when I, and I still get this, when I go to bed, you see, I have this, like a replay. It's like a slideshow. Everything I've seen during the day gets flashed up in front of my eyes. And I get flashbacks from years and years ago. And it's fascinating. It is actually very, very interesting. Never really get sick of it. Although when I'd left college, and everyone when they leave college, usually, particularly in those days, you had a little period of time where you struggled a bit to get a job because you didn't have experience, and they always liked people with experience, and so I decided I would be a volunteer fireman. I was still in my teens, late teens, and unfortunately, you know, firemen would be called out in the middle of the night. And, you know, you saw the side of life that other people didn't necessarily see. So I did have some really unpleasant flashbacks for a while, and I went to the doctor to see if there was anything they could, you know, I thought, well, maybe they'd just give me a tranquilizer and that'll sort it out. And he said, well, the best thing is just go through it. Go through the flashbacks, don't fight it. And then once you've been through it, chances are they'll stop. And he was a good doctor, actually. And he was absolutely right. They stopped. What I'm doing here is I'm trying to get a few little bits of water. Do I want water there? Well, maybe I'll leave it anyway. Showing through the trees. So that's the idea there. Anyway, yeah, I did that, and I had these terrible flashbacks. Some of them were absolutely awful. I won't tell you what they were about because it was horrible. But you know, you can probably guess. Anyway, but it's useful for painting, see, because if I'm painting and I want a panoramic view like this, I just literally sift through my panoramic view section in my head and up pops something. So I know how the textures will look. That's the only way I can explain it. Right, so enough of that. While I've got this brush, I've finished with the sky for now, apart from just getting rid of a couple of bristles. Once you get a bristle off and it leaves a mark, just stroke it quickly, like that, and it'll go away. I might use this purely to soften some of these trees. Although the bottom edge of that little lot there, I'm not totally happy with that. I've got to check that you can see what I'm talking about. Means I've got to turn around. No, you can't. I may have to do some careful editing if you've missed a lot of stuff. Anyway, there's the river coming through the picture, twinkling its way between the trees. I don't know what it does over on the left, but it goes somewhere. They always do, don't they? And then the bit that's sort of worrying me, although it's not necessarily a big worry, is this little lot here. And I think what I want to do is, again, just a small brush, just level off the bottom a bit. That is really dry, and only since yesterday. It's incredible. It's frustrating sometimes because sometimes I'll paint a picture, someone will say, oh, I want to buy that, and I can't send a painting until it's dry, and it'll take months. And, you know, the people always wait, because there's no point sending a picture if it's sticky. So, yeah, you just have to wait. I just had a little thought. I wonder whether I should get a few slightly darker bits over there, just to sort of... There we are, there's a little bit of tidying up. It just wasn't doing it, you know. There's some weird purple colours just there, and I just want to sort of depurple it. Okay, that's better. Now, if I come back to this in the future, which I probably will, I will spend time on the horizon. But what I'm going to do with this, as I said, this big brush, as I've got it here, I'm just going to use it because it's an excellent softening brush. And there's one thing I do like about tonalism, and that is the trees sometimes just need to be softened to give them more of a tonalist, slightly misty look. Right, and I can see immediately what's worrying me. Right. So, corner of this brush. It's got a touch of paint on it, not a lot really. Just give it a quick wipe just to make sure it hasn't got anything too psychedelic on it. Right, so here, these trees just here. I like them now. I like these two little ones poking up here. That's quite nice. But all I want to do is just basically touch the edge. I don't know whether I can make much of an impression on it, because they may have dried out too much. Oh no, it's actually having an effect. It's just to soften the edges just a bit. hardly noticeable, but it just lets them sit back a bit. I don't want them too, too in your face. There. Oh, now that's interesting. The odd line in the landscape like that. Something about streaks. Streaks across fields. Shows that there's some kind of life going on without actually having to paint anyone. Am I extraordinarily enamoured by that? Well, nope. Got to be honest, really. Let's just pull that back a bit. When I say pull it back, I mean put the light back. There we go. Hope my microphone's still working. It's been sometimes during my classes at the end, it just my mics just finish. They just sort of run out of power, and I have to switch over to my webcam microphone, which is not the best on the planet, I have to say. Okay, so there we are. When I paint, by the way, I don't think of colour values. I don't think of temperature. That might be it for now. So if you want to come for a class, don't let me stop you. Let's have another one there. If you go to my website, the link will be below. You can go to the teaching section, tells you everything that you need to know, basically. What else? I do Zoom classes. I usually do 2 a month, except for this month, because I just fizzled out, basically, but I'll be back. And what else do I need to say? That's it, I think. I'll give you a full-size view. It's also just to let my students know I'm still alive. I've got some really nice regular students who come to my Zoom, delightful bunch. And I think I should let them know I'm still on the planet. I'm not happy with that. What is it about that bunch of trees that is not quite doing it? Okay, I think it's the top edge. Right, well, I was winding up, but I'm not now. So this lump of trees, I'm not totally happy with that. So I'm going to change the top edge. Let's make it have a bit more presence. And also, this leaning tree, I don't want it leaning. I want it to be slightly more over that way. And I want to put another little tree next to it, going off to that hedge over there. That'll do. Right, now, so this sausage on the landscape, I'm afraid it's just not doing it. I'm going to just sort of, it's going to be a bit blurry, but I'm going to do that to it. That's better. That's much better. That's got much more pizzazz. It is now pizzazified, and I'll show you a little trick. To a piece of paper again. You can see it clearly, I think. Piece of paper, bit of light green, not too much. Just a twinkle or two. I hope I haven't stopped the camera. Oh no, we're still recording. Let's have a little bit of light there, and a little bit of light here, and a bit there, and a bit there, and a bit there. Now, the next class that I do on Zoom is about foliage, and how to make foliage quickly. This is it, basically, but I'll be going into it in slightly more depth, and a lot more detail on a much bigger set of trees, so that you can see all the intricacies, little tricks that you can do that make it more authentic. Let's have a bit hanging down there. And I think, Stewie, that's it, you've got to stop before you fall over. Right, there we go. So yeah, I hope you've learnt something, hope you enjoyed it, that's also the main thing. I hope I didn't talk too much. And I'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.